Back here on CBS Sports HQ, the race in the AL East is heating up. The Yankees are in action tonight against the Blue Jays as they try to take the series from their division rival. Yankees are 6-4 in their last 10, winning 2 of the last 3, and the trade deadline is quickly approaching. So we know starting pitching, I feel like that's a need for almost everybody, but starting pitching and a third baseman is at the top of their list. That trade deadline is July 31st. As mentioned, the AL East at the top there, it is heating up. The Yankees, they are 3 games back from the Blue Jays to sit at the top of the division, but still, according to FanDuel, they are -125 favorite to win the division. Let's welcome in our MLB insider, Jim Bowden. And Jim, we're going to go through some of the teams that we think are going to be buyers, that we pretty much know are going to be buyers at the trade deadline, and their biggest needs and the ideal trade scenarios and candidates for them. Starting with the Yankees, we know pitching, that is something they have needed for a long time. And then, of course, a third baseman. Eugenio Suarez seems to be at the top of a lot of teams' list here. Hearing that the Mets might be a contender for him as well. But when it comes to the Yankees, what is their ideal trade scenario for their biggest needs?
Yeah, so as you pointed out, a starting pitcher, relief pitcher, third base, that's their goal. And I think if they get their way, they would get a starting pitcher like Mitch Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He would be a good fit. Also, there's Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly of Arizona. They've also touched base with the Padres on Dylan Cease. But Mitch Keller seems to be a player they could acquire with their prospect cabinet. They're not going to trade George Lombard Jr. They're not going to trade Spencer Jones, but all other prospects are on the board. And so it seems like that would be a good fit for them. And maybe they could expand the deal and get one of their relievers, either David Bednar or Dennis Santana. But also, they could go to the Guardians and go get Cade Smith for the back of the bullpen and add another high-leverage reliever. And then, you know, you mentioned Suarez. Yeah, there's 6 teams that are out there that are bidding for him, like the Seattle Mariners, the Cubs. You mentioned the Mets, the Cincinnati Reds. It's going to be tough to get Suarez, but you know, the Yankees, you know, can also offer outfield help besides the prospects to try to make a trade like this. Because with Grisham and Bellinger, Dominguez, and the rookie Spencer Jones, who is Major League ready and waiting for a pathway, you know, the Yankees could trade one of the outfielders along with prospects not named Lombard and Jones to make that work. So I think the ideal deadline for them would be Keller, Cade Smith, and Eugenio Suarez.
All right, let's go to the defending World Series champs, the Dodgers. They are 3-7 in their last 10, and the Padres are kind of slowly creeping up on them in the division. We've seen that over the last couple of weeks or so. When it comes to the Dodgers, what is the ideal trade deadline scenario for them?
Well, Jacqueline, you know, it's funny because Andrew Friedman in the offseason worked so hard to build up the bullpen, right? Signing Tanner Scott, signing Kirby Yates, bringing Blake Trinan back because he didn't want to have to get to the trade deadline and trade for more relievers. Well, what happened? All his relievers broke down. And so now he's at the deadline trying to get relievers. And that is his top priority. Look, I think Emmanuel Clase, the impact closer of the Guardians, would be a perfect fit. They are looking for a big power bat. And the Dodgers could offer Josu DePaula or Zaire Hope from their minor leagues. Both are top outfield prospects. That's what Cleveland needs long-term. So it's a match. Clase is signed long-term. He's at an affordable contract. And this is what the Dodgers really need more than anything is bullpen help. They also could go to the Twins for Johan Duran or Griffin Jacks as another possibility, or as we mentioned before, David Bednar and Dennis Santana of Pittsburgh, or maybe Felix Bautista or Gregory Soto or Baltimore as well. But the bullpen is the goal, and Clase would be the perfect pickup for them. And also left field. You know, people don't talk about this, but Michael Conforto is hitting 186 and hasn't hit for much power. He's got 8 home runs. They're not getting production out there, and it's hard enough that Mookie Betts isn't Mookie Betts right now. And so I can see them pairing up in a trade with the Red Sox for Jarren Duran. Look, the Dodgers are getting some of their starting pitchers back. That means they could have some excess that they could combine in a package to trade to Boston to try to get Duran to play left field, and that would be a huge, huge pickup for their lineup. Relief is the #1 goal, but Jacqueline, Clase and Duran would be a perfect deadline deal for them.
All right, finally, let's go to the NL Central because that's getting really interesting towards the top with the Cubs and the Brew Crew. They're sitting neck and neck. If we're looking at Chicago, the Cubs, what is the ideal scenario for them? Who should some of their top targets be?
Yeah, it's tough for them because the Brewers just added 2 #1 starters, right? Jacob Misiorowski from the minor leagues gets promoted, and Brandon Woodruff comes off the IL. You put them with Freddie Peralta. Now Milwaukee's got 3 #1 starters. So, you know, for the Cubs to compete with Milwaukee and try to win this division, they have to go get another starter. So let's use an example that Mitch Keller, let's just say he's traded to the Yankees. Let's say the Diamondbacks decide they're not going to trade Gallen or Kelly, and they're going to go for it. If that happens, then the Cubs could pivot and go to the Miami Marlins for Edward Cabrera. No, this is not a pitcher that the Marlins necessarily want to trade, but they're listening to teams, and they want to get younger. And the farm system of the Cubs is loaded, so they can match up extremely well there. The Cubs also need a reliever, and I think Griffin Jax of the Twins would be a really nice high-leverage reliever and a really good fit. He misses bats. And they also want to upgrade at third base. Now, like the other teams, they've been connected with Eugenio Suarez, but again, he can only be traded to one team. So another interesting name to keep your eye on is Michael Garcia, the third baseman of the Kansas City Royals. He was an all-star this year, and the Royals desperately need left field help. Well, the Cubs could offer Owen Cassey, a power-hitting left fielder that is stuck in AAA right now and is clearly Major League ready. And, of course, the Royals could then put Jonathan Indy at third with Massey at second and put Cassey in left field. Kind of makes sense for both sides. So I think for the Cubs, if you could add a starter like Cabrera, a reliever like Jax, and a third baseman like Garcia, yum, 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 that pennant race would be fun.
It seems like starting pitching, just pitching in general, it always kind of comes back to that, Jim. We certainly appreciate it. As we look ahead to the trade deadline, which again, that is July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. Getting a look at the odds to win the World Series. The Dodgers, they are the favorites at +220, trying to go back-to-back. Next up, we have the Tigers at 7-1, and then the Yankees at 8-1.